Melody Burton. I'm a pediatrician here at Mansfield Pediatrics.
Okay. And how long have you been doing pediatrics?
Over 25 years.
Wow. Okay.
I started in 1995.
Okay. And have things changed drastically since then?
Yes, I think there's been, some things have stayed stable. I think that pediatrics has always been very preventative in how we look at things. Vaccines have always been a key part of child health care, disease prevention. One of the things for me I love about pediatrics is the fact that we've always looked at what can we do to prevent problems. One of my favorite stories with Dr. Archer and me is we are 10 years difference in residency, and I saw no Haemophilus influenza meningitis, and she saw it every day. So it's a huge difference, and that was all related to the impact of vaccines. So that's one of the things that stayed very consistent, is that in pediatrics always we're looking for what can do to prevent lifestyle, issues for children. We can prevent anything that can make them a healthier adult. I mean, that's kind of the goal of pediatrics and has always been there. So vaccines have stayed stable. Otherwise, I would say some of the bigger challenges that we are seeing is mental health, for sure. We have seen a large shift in the number of children who don't seem to have the best coping mechanisms, that struggle with a lot of anxiety, depression, somewhat of an increase for ADHD, but I think in all truth and honesty, that's just more of an awareness. Otherwise, those are probably two of the biggest issues. I mean, I think obesity has always been around in kids. I just think that the American Academy of Pediatrics is currently putting a bigger concern on it in that situation.
Wow. That's a lot.
I know.
Okay.
If you want a simpler answer, I can go backwards.
No. Okay, so in looking at and what we're trying to do this year is kind of take the life of a human. How do you, at your level, from pediatrics, what's the best thing that parents can do to set the stage for this human to have a healthy life?
I think that some of the biggest things are, from a simple parenting perspective, I think that structure, routine, I know that parents don't really want to hear that as much, but I think that we forget that children truly do thrive off of knowing what the rules are. And so you're not a bad parent if you let your child do something that jump on the bed, per se, but you definitely need to be consistent with how you handle those things. So I think in the early toddler years, consistency is one of the most important things that I focus with my parents on, and that consistency goes across an entire family. It has to be grandma, it has to be mom, it has to be dad. Everybody has to kind of be on the same page about how they manage things. I think that helps set that behavioral home life, as far as, hate to say it, but who's ultimately in charge and who's there to make decisions. And then that just kind of helps establish a good relationship between the parents and adults as adolescents, as they move forward, that mom and dad are going to be consistent with how they handle things. And I think that's a big win for kids. I also think that helps minimize some of the mental health problems that we're seeing in kids. That some of the focus that we need to realize is that I don't know what the change is. I really don't. The pandemic has definitely taken anyone who has borderline mental health issues, and it has just thrust them into overwhelming events. So the pandemic just took anyone with mild levels of anxiety and just took it to the next level for these kids. And then it took it to that next level for parents. I mean, they didn't even know how to manage kids at home and those types of things. But now I'm getting off topic, aren't I?
No, I think it's good. It's a good conversation.
Okay. Well, so I think definitely structure is important. I think that one of the things that helps lay a good foundation in this environment is talking to your kids about their emotions. I'm a big proponent of working with your kids on emotions. We tend to be like, why are you sad? Or you don't mean to be sad. But I'm a big fan that you need to be kind of like, hey, it's okay. Mom said no, you're allowed to be mad. But what do we do with that anger? How do we manage it? And I think we've forgotten to help our kids learn how to manage their anxiety even at a young age, which then encourages them to know how to cope with bigger things. We can't constantly keep our children from falling down, but we seem to be doing that, where we're preventing them from falling down, but we're not giving them any coping mechanisms for how to get back up. And I think that one of the most important things for this next generation of kids is that we really need to focus on how for them to get back up after an adversity has happened.
Well, it's almost like we've bubble wrapped. And
Yes.
so we don't want anything bad to happen.
Yes.
We don't want them to experience anything
Correct.
negative, and therefore they can't cope with life.
Yes, and that's not the
Yeah.
reality.
No,
because
it's
the
not.
world, no matter how wonderful it is and whatever you do, there are going to be
Yeah.
adversities along your life. And so then they're struggling. So I think that one of the most important foundations for kids is to establish that how to deal with your emotions when you're very young and learn those coping mechanisms so that you can move forward into that adolescent life where things are just going to come at you and you don't have any way to avoid it. Parents can't control the environment constantly for children.
Yeah. What about healthy habits?
Healthy habits for sure. My biggest healthy habit would be staying off of your phone and your iPad and your internet. But you all know that. All parents know that. It is an addiction, but truthfully, there are so many studies in pediatrics to show that the anxiety and depression and even suicidality in kids increase based off of the time that they spend on their phones and on the internet, especially in adolescence, TikTok, things that just kind of constantly reinforce a reality that is not existent for these children, but yet they still feel a need to try and obtain it. So definitely looking at the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends no more than 2 hours of time on the TV, video, anything like that every day. Second would be unstructured playtime. I really am a big proponent of unstructured playtime. Even though we keep our kids active, we organize their time literally from the day they're 3 years old. And I think that we've forgotten the value of creative play. One of the things that's made me sad recently is I've seen magazines about selling products that are retro toys. And I'm like, no, these are appropriate toys for children. These are not retros, they're blocks. They're, items that don't involve watching a video 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I really think we forget that just, letting our kids use the box that our TV came in, which nowadays wouldn't work anyways because it would be a slim box, but you get my point. Maybe your refrigerator, those types of things, just letting kids have unstructured play where they just get to use their imagination. It fosters their intelligence. It fosters those coping mechanisms. Because again, if they're outside playing with their brother and they have to solve their own problems, then they're going to figure some things out and they're going to be creative. So I'm a big fan of that. Long term also though, exercise, but remember, exercise for kids doesn't have to be organized. It can just be fun. I mean, just go ride a bike together, go be a family, go take a walk, go walk the dog. I think one of the hardest things that parents approach in today is everybody's dual income, and when we get home, everybody's exhausted. And so no one wants to go, spend an hour and a half riding a bike with their, 5-year-old, but those are things that are important for kids. So good exercise habits, trying to stay off social media, and then I would say last, of course, healthy diet. I mean, in that situation, yes. And there's two things I see with diets nowadays. One is I find that I have a lot of kids who struggle with food in general, and they start at very young ages with being very, very, very picky eaters. And in the old days, I would have told parents, just hang in there and Johnny will quit being so difficult. But in today's environment, and I'm, again, not 100% certain what's causing it, I have my things that I believe do it. One is the microwave. But some of it is just simply the fact that we now have so much access to quick foods. The kids are smart. They know that mom, instead of making me eat the spaghetti with noodles and ravioli and red sauce, can make me chicken nuggets in under 15 minutes in the microwave. But the problem for parents is they'll succumb to that. And so then what happens is I have 5 and 6-year-olds who eat chicken nuggets, French fries, no vegetables, no fruits. So you have to stick with it. It's a battle worth winning. And I think that's one of the most important things parents need to understand, that it is a battle that's worth winning. Your kids have to have a variety of fruits, have to have a variety of vegetables. And then long term, as we move into weight maintenance issues, the American Academy of Pediatrics' big push is, it's called 5210, and it's 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, no more than 2 hours of video game TV time, an hour of activity every day, and 0 sugary drinks. And that, guys, means Powerade, Gatorade, any of those types, Kool-Aid, even if it has sugar in it. And I think that, in simple terms, is a very, if you just follow the 5210 rules in general, that's kind of a simple way to think of just kind of taking your kid through that young age group into a healthier adolescent and adult.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't think people realize that, until the age of 7 or 8 is when the programming is done in your subconscious mind. And so all of those habits, the routines, all of that is established very early on.
Yes,
and that stays with us until we're in,
Correct.
Yeah.
Until we're older. I mean, I even think from a food perspective, one of the studies I've read shows that even for a child to know if they like a food, that it takes over 15 times of introduction. So don't give up. I mean, you have to reintroduce those green beans over and over before they even know if they want to eat those things. But yes, structure, routine, consistency, all of those things help. Yeah, I agree with you. That's one of the keys, is just introducing all of those good qualities young, remembering that the biggest time that the mind is developing and changing and learning is in those young age groups where they kind of get their routines.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to add is that definitely knowing your community resources can be helpful. One of my favorite events out there or websites is healthychildren.org. That's an American Academy of Pediatrics website. And so everybody will joke about Dr. Google in the world, but in simple terms, I don't care if my parents go to a website as long as they're going to a reputable website. And so healthychildren.org is funded through the American Academy of Pediatrics. It is a wealth of information. So it can answer pretty much any question. It even has an app that has like a symptom checker on it. So you can put your app on your phone. You can put your doctor's number in it. You can have quick access to, hey, my child has a fever, and it will simply go down through, this is when to worry, this is when to call your doctor, these are the mechanisms you can do. I believe last time I checked, it even had the dosages of medicines, which aren't on the bottle for under 2. So that's out there. For food, choosemyplate.gov is lovely. It's a Michelle Obama initiative, but it is probably one of the best websites out there. It talks about variety of foods. It talks about what kids are learning in school now. We learned the food pyramid, but that doesn't exist anymore. They learn the food plate, and it's all about that their plate should have different colors on it. And so they're learning about it. So just reinforcing that at home. It has a way to even establish like meal plans with your children. One of the other things I like to tell parents with food is let your kids cook. Get them into the kitchen, because there's all kinds of studies to show that the more involved children are in preparing and making their meals, the more likely they will eat it in that situation. And then last, know that Texas currently is doing some pretty good initiatives on mental health. So now most of your pediatricians should have access to online option called CPAN, and it is a child's psychiatric access network for pediatricians. So it's a child access network, but it also has information on it for parents. Like there's parental access on there that go through how to manage anxiety, what to do for depression. So it gets pediatricians the availability of resources to your local community, but then it also gets pediatricians access to a pediatric psychiatrist in under 30 minutes. So if we need help, we now also have it, which is, I think, a very phenomenal thing that the state of Texas has taken on as an initiative.